Betul, Dr. Yusri.
Akan record, betul? So we can start the recording. Okay, saya pun dah nampak dah start recording dan juga I think ada beberapa orang mic dia masih lagi on dan ada dengar background noise. So boleh tak semak mic, kita pastikan dia mute. Alright, so let's begin. This is a training on quiz and gradebook in eLearn at USM. I know a lot of pensyarah akan berminat dengan topik ini kerana ada banyak nak kena move on kepada assessment secara online. Then one way for us to assess student ialah menggunakan quiz, dan quiz itu akan terlekat atau akan tied with the gradebook. So kita kena, saya fikir dalam keadaan ini kita sepatutnya set both sekali, quiz and juga gradebook dalam training session ini. Tapi ada lagi, there's a few other ways that we can assess the students, but we'll start off with quiz. I think quiz is something that everybody more or less understand the concept of. So saya Dr. Yusri dari School of Industrial Technology, and CDE has graciously invited me to host this to run this training. So thank you to CDE. And I know that that's not updated. We started early. We are starting early at 2:30 to 4 because of the perutusan yang mungkin akan berlangsung pada pukul 4 nanti. So I try to keep this within an hour because I don't think it's a very wise to do it for very long secara online. So saya akan try to cover all my material dalam sejam, and we'll leave like 15 minutes at about 3:30. We leave about 15 minutes for Q&A, then we can end the session. So I don't really know how long this training will take because I prepared a few things for us to go through, and I hope we can cover it in 1 hour, but I haven't test run it yet. So it might be plus minus 1 hour or so. Okay. Jadi let's move on. Okay, so as for all trainings, there's always the learning outcome. So we have this training because I hope by the end of this training, you, the participants, will be able to. First, we have to create categories for our questions because that's where we can organize our questions so that we can arrange them accordingly inside the quizzes. So that's why this is a very important step. So by the end of this training, you will learn how to create categories for your questions. And then kita will go through a few types of questions dalam quiz. I know there's a lot more than this, tapi these are the ones the most popular. There's the multiple choice questions, there's the true false questions, numerical, calculated multi-choice questions. I think there's a few more there I forgot to put in because I recently updated this presentation. And selepas kita dapat question and we created all these questions, then we added into a question bank, then only we can create the quiz. And after we create the quiz, we set up the gradebook for the quiz. Okay? So that's I hope what we can learn by the end of this training. Now, the overview of this training is first the categories for the questions, and then the type of questions. Here I updated it. There's I'll create true and false questions. I'll create multiple choice, numerical, calculated multi-choice questions. So mana 5 questions in total. And then after that, we'll set up the gradebook. So there's also the categories for the grade and juga grade letters dalam gradebook tu sendiri. So you might not understand all of these things yang ada kat sini because these are all the features yang available in eLearn, tapi you'll get to know them as we go along with this training. So far, so good. Hello.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Yes,
Now,
okay.
Thank you for the response. Ada background noise sikit lah. Okay. So, all right. So I tried to make this training as realistic as possible, and to do that, I assume most of the course is empty. The eLearn course is empty. There's nothing in it. So I set up my own course that I'm not teaching this semester, but I still have it in my account. I set it up to be empty, and then we will build that quiz and also the gradebook from scratch using this empty course. So but then there's always, for an empty course or a case study, there's that course that we like to work on, and for this course is IEA 501, Atmospheric Science and Air Quality. So you can imagine this is course. Yes, sorry. So you can imagine that this is your own course, and then you want to create a quiz and gradebook for this course inside eLearn. And I think most of us has gone for 100% coursework to replace the final exam. So the cost distribution or the percentage distribution becomes, like we said it, 40% assignment and 60% quiz atau test. Now, the terminology used inside eLearn is quiz dan bukan test. Tapi kita boleh panggil either quiz atau test because basically they're about the same thing. Now, this course, maybe it's of interest because this is a case study. This is of interest to those who are teaching science and engineering or technology subjects, but the ones that are not teaching that subject could also get some useful information from this training as well. So I'd like to keep it as real as possible. That's why I created some mock questions, but realistic mock questions. I created a hypothetical case study and also the empty course for you to, so that I can start from where I think most of you will start. So you can imagine 40% assignment, 60% quiz, and then they consist of a few topics. Dalam ni course ni saya ada 3 topik, unit and dimension, temperature and pressure, conservation of mass and energy. I'm sure other courses have more topics, tapi this is just the case study course kan. So imagine that this course have this criteria. Okay. So what are we going to do? So in this training, we are going to create a 5-question quiz atau test for the topic. One of the topic is temperature and pressure. And then kita set it up so that they will automatically report the results of the quiz to the students after the assessment has ended. So that's what we are trying to create in this training. Now, we'll start off with question categories. So these are the steps that I think that you should take when you start from scratch. So let me go to eLearn. First of all, we need to create the question categories. Sekarang saya pergi ke eLearn. Mana dia eLearn? Okay, saya akan log out macam biasa supaya semua dapat lihat daripada awal. Okay, so ini is our eLearn at USM portal. So macam biasa kita login di sini dan input username dengan password and sign in. Boleh lihat eLearn portal saya? Boleh ya?
Boleh.
Yes, boleh. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the
Boleh.
feedback. Okay, so ada course dalam semester, I know this is semester 2 tapi this is the hypothetical course, case study. So yang saya akan nak isi untuk kursus IEA 501 di sini. So saya click on that, saya masuk dalam course saya. So saya bayangkan kebanyakan kursus e-learning akan kosong seperti atau mungkin ada sedikit files here and there, tapi in general macam ni lah kita akan nampak bila kita buka, betul tak? So,
Sorry, doctor. Sorry. Can
yes.
you speak English, please?
Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll pick 100% English from now on.
Thank you very
Sorry about that.
much, doctor. Thank you.
Okay, so we've logged in, we've gone into the course, and this is what we would see. I assume most of you, if you're starting from 0. So it's okay, we just leave it at this for now, and then we want to create the question categories first. I think this is the first natural step to begin so that it follows the general sequence of creating the quiz. So you go into this portal and then you click on the gear icon here and you scroll down until you see more and you click on that. Okay. Now, after clicking on more, then you would see this page called course administration and you have a lot of options here. You can ignore this for now. You go to under this question bank here, you see all these links, and then we are going to create categories for those questions. So later on, when we are creating the questions, we'll be creating the questions in this link. But for now, we are creating the categories for it. Now, there's a reason why I recommend you to create categories because later you will be creating, I assume most of us will be creating quizzes based on certain topics. So it's easier for us to create those quizzes if we categorize the questions according to categories or topics. Okay, is that clear enough? All right, so now the first category. So there's 3 topics, if you remember in the presentation. Where is that presentation? Okay, the first question category is unit and dimension. So this is the first topic. So we'll create that category first, units and dimensions, and then click add category. So when you create your questions, you'll be creating your questions for this unit and dimensions. That means you will place those questions if it's related to unit and dimensions inside this category. So now we move on to the next category. I think it is temperature and pressure. So I'll put that in, temperature and pressure. For the second topic, click on add category. Now, if I'm going too fast, please you can stop me and then ask me to repeat, no problem. Okay, so now we have 2 categories now for the 2 topics, and then the final one would be I think conservation of mass and energy. All right, that's the third topic. hypothetical topics for this hypothetical course. So now we have the 3 categories. So once we create the questions, we'll be placing in these 3 categories. So again, let me remind you, what you plan to do is to create a 5-question quiz or test for the topic temperature and pressure, right? So we've created these categories, and then now, let's say we've done for unit and dimensions, we've done, now we are trying to create questions for temperature and pressure. So we will create the questions now to populate our question bank so that we can create our quiz later. So these are the questions that we want to create. So for that quiz, we have 1 true and false question on defining temperature. The second question is multiple choice, define pressure. The question is the numerical type. The title of that is temperature conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius. The fourth question is simple calculated temperature conversion Fahrenheit to Rankine, calculated and calculated multi-choice. So these are, I try to make it as realistic as possible as the type of questions and complexity that I think most lecturers would like to ask the students. So I created those questions based on that. Means that I try to make it as realistic as possible. So these 6 questions, the difficulty goes from easy until more difficult at the end at the calculated multi-choice. So just bear with me as I get more and more technical with creating these questions. So we start off with the first very simple question, the true and false question. I think most of you have experience with creating these questions, but for the benefit of those who have not gone through any training on creating this question, so I'll do that. So what is the question like? So I also think that if you already have a question in mind before you start to ask the questions in eLearn. So like for example, for the true and false questions, you like to ask the students whether this statement here, temperature is the magnitude of energy stored in mass, is true or false. Okay, so imagine this is the question that you like to ask. And you know that this question here is, the answer is false. So how do we do this inside eLearn, at USM? So let's go back to eLearn. So we have these 3 categories just now. We click on questions. And then here, if you click on this, you see default for the course and then the other categories that we've created. So obviously we want to put it inside the temperature and pressure category. So we click on temperature and pressure. So we are creating the question for this temperature and pressure category. And then we click on create a new question. Now there's a lot of choices here. I know it can get a bit overwhelming, but you don't need to know all of them, I think, and then we only cover 6, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 5 question types that I think are the most important or the most useful. So we want to create a true-false question. So click on true and false, and we can read some description about that question. A simple form of multiple choice questions with just the 2 choices, true and false, a simple question. So we click on add. All right. Now we just fill up the needed information here. The ones we've marked as...
Dr. Yusri,
yes?
I think you are moving a bit too fast. There are so many people asking questions down there, but you appear not to see it.
Yeah,
Jadi banyak sangat. You are very fast. Perhaps for some first-time user, we are quite confused already.
Oh, okay, yes, no problem. Thank you for that. So let me go back. Let me look at the chat. Let's go back to the chat. I don't see the chat actually. That's the problem. Let me see inside my phone.
We can see the chats easily, but yeah.
I don't see the chat.
I think there was one who asked earlier. As long as you slow down a bit, slow down a bit to 1 to 5 kilometer per hour than 60 kilometer per hour.
yeah, because on your own you tend to go fast. That's why.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I can see the question. It says, can we start from the category? Okay, I'll go back to categories. All right. Where is that? Okay. Creating categories. I'm going to start from 0, from the beginning. No categories at all. I'm going to delete all this. Okay, empty, clean slate. So first, we need to create categories. So usually we create the categories based on the topics. So remember, there's 3 topics. There's units and dimensions, there's temperature and pressure, and there's conservation of mass and energy. So we naturally create these 3 topics. So to create the topics, okay, if you see on the top here, there's the questions, categories, import and export. You click on categories here and you'll come to this window. So in this window, we just need to fill up the name of that category. So the first category is units and dimensions. Is that okay? And then click on, scroll down, and then click on add category. Okay, so that's the first category. Now we create another category for the next topic, which is temperature and pressure. And then scroll down, click on add category. Now you see 2 categories created for the 2 topics. Now for the last one, I think it's conservation of mass and energy. Scroll down and then click on add category. So now we have the 3 categories where we can put all the questions according to categories or according to topics. Does that answer some of your questions? Yes? I cannot see the chat. Let me see. Let me see the chat. Where's the chat?
Okay, I will.
Okay. So far, what do I see here? How to create the gallery, starting from where? I think the base. Thanks. Okay, so I don't see any problems, so I'm going to move on.
Okay, it's clear.
Clear? All right.
Clear.
Good. Now, where's that? Okay, so now we have the 3 categories. Now we want to create the questions. So to create questions, you go to the top here. Again, we're still in the question bank category page. So here we see on top question category, import and export. We click on questions to create the question, this question tab here. So click on that. Okay. Now there's no questions. We haven't created any yet. And most of you will not have any questions too inside your question bank. So we need to create the questions first before we can create the quiz. So to create a question, you select the category of that question. So like I mentioned, we want to create 5 questions for this temperature and pressure topic. So again, you need to select a category and then choose the category that you've created. Now this would be empty if you have not created your categories yet. So because we've created it just now, so you will see these categories. So choose temperature and pressure, and then it will go to that category. And this is when you can create a question for that temperature and pressure category. So far, so good? Okay, so I'm assuming everything is okay. Now we create a new question. So once we click on that create a new question, there's a lot of options here. So we don't have to worry ourselves with all these options. We just want to create a true-false question for now. So click here, you can see multiple choice, true, false, matching. So you can explore all the rest. But for now, for this question at least, we are creating a true, false question. So click on true, false. And you can read the description of that question here. For all this, there's a description for it. And then we click on add. Okay, after you click on add, you would come to this screen. So the category is temperature and pressure because we said it correctly in the beginning. And then we need to add in the question name. Now this question name, oh, by the way, if you see this icon, this red exclamation mark, it means that these are compulsory items to add or to put in information for. So first we need to give a title to the question. So I already prepared the question, and the question title for me is define temperature question. So I just copy from my Word that title, or if you can think of your own, you can just type it in and then paste it there. So that's the question name. And then this is where you put the question text. the question that you like to ask the student. So here, the question text is this statement, and then you like to ask whether you like to ask the students whether they know whether this is true or false. So we copy this. This is assuming you have your questions ready before you add into your to eLearn. So you copy the statement or the question, and then you paste it in the question text. All right. Everything else here is yes. Any comments or questions? Everybody good?
Yeah, it's good.
Yes, so far so good.
All right, thank you. So temperature is the magnitude of energy. This is the statement. And then here is the default mark. So I recommend you just leave it at 1. You can change the weightage of the marks for each question later in the quiz. So for all questions, you should leave it at 1. And in the quiz, you can change it to 3 or 4 or 5 marks per question. So my recommendation is just leave it at default as 1. Now, this is the general feedback that the students get to see after the quiz, but it's not compulsory for you to put any information here. ID number if you like to ID the questions, but again, it's optional. And then here, it says correct answer, false. This is up whether that statement is true or false. So we know that the answer for this question is false. So by default, it says correct answer is false. But if the question is supposed to be true, so you need to say correct answer is true, if it's true. But the question just now is false. Okay. Then the feedback for the response true. So we know that this is wrong because the answer is false. So this is actually optional to give feedback, but I highly recommend it because if the student get it wrong, then they understand why they get it wrong. So this is where we can actually still teach during the assessment phase. So I prepared the feedback for the wrong answer in my Word document. I'll go to my Word document. Okay, so incorrect, true. So this is my response to explain to the student why they got it wrong. Copy that, and I paste it there. Okay, and then the feedback for the response false, which is correct in this case. I also have a response for that. Copy that, and then paste. Now again, these are optional, but I highly recommend it so that the students can learn whether they get it right or wrong. Everybody good so far?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
How's my pace
Yeah.
now? Is that good?
It's good.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, then we scroll down and then we just click on Save Changes. After you finish clicking Save Changes, it goes to the next page and you see the question created. So usually if it's a new question, here's just one question, so you can obviously see the question. But if you have many questions, like say 10 or 20 questions, then you might get lost of which is the latest question that you created. So the latest question that's created is highlighted in green. Okay. Now we can preview this question. You can edit it by clicking on this gear button. Or if you like to see how it behaves, you can, or preview it, you can click on this magnifying with a plus symbol in it. So if you click on that, a pop-up window will show up. Can you see this pop-up window? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is what the student would see once they attempt the question or attempt the quiz. They see temperature is the magnitude of energy stored in mass. Select one, true or false. So let's say they select true. This is just to test. And then we click submit and finish to test the question. And this is what the student will see at the end of the quiz. You'll say, no, temperature is the degree of energy because it's incorrect. This is what they see if they get it wrong. And if you start again, and you click on the right answer now, false, and you click submit and finish, this is what they see if they get it correct. Correct because the temperature is the degree of energy present in mass. The correct answer is false. So this is one way for you to test whether your question is working as expected. Maybe I'll give about 5 seconds if anybody want to ask any questions. No questions? All right, so I'll move on. Close preview. So now we've created the true and false question. So what's the next question we like to create? So the next one is a popular multiple choice question, and it's about defining pressure. So I'm going to close this true and false question. I'm going to open my multiple choice question that I created. Okay, so this is my question. Okay, now, how do we create a multiple choice question? First, like we are in the correct category, still in temperature and pressure. To create a new question, again, we click on create a new question. Click on that. And then we choose multiple choice because that's the question that we like to create now. After we choose multiple choice, then we click on add. So now we are creating a multiple choice question. Like before, we need to give it a name. So I've already created the name for this question. Let me go to that Word document. Okay, the question title is define pressure. I copy this. Then I paste it there. Define pressure. Remember, these are compulsory information. And then the question text. So I go to my Word document. The question text is, which of the following about pressure is correct? So I copy this and I paste it there. And then the default mark, again, I recommend setting it as 1. And then below here, there's a few ways that you can expect answers from the students. One is the traditional or the common one answer question. But we also have a choice to ask the students to select one or more. Sorry, there's some. I think there's some background noise. Okay. So here, I'm going to show you how to create multiple answer question instead of the one answer question, multiple choice. If you want it to be one answer, you just, by default, it's already set as one answer only, but you can actually, there's another option here where it says multiple answers allowed. And this is the example I want to show to you right now. So I'm going to choose that, multiple answers allowed. And then here are the answers. Now, sometimes when you look at this one, then you see there's too small a space to write in. You can actually go to the right here, and then there is this icon at the right. You just click and drag, and then it would open up more space for you to write. Okay, so now going back to my Word document. Okay, I say here the first choice is correct. The first choice for the students to choose is the force exerted per unit area is correct. So I copy this. This is the first choice for the student, which is correct. Now, I already know that this question is multiple answer, is select one or more. That means that I have to allocate certain marks for each part. So we know that per question is 100%. So, and I know the answers, there's 4 choices, but there's 2 correct answer. So the first choice here, one of the 2 correct answer, I give a grade not 100%, but 50%. Because this is one of the answers. Okay, and then again, there's this feedback to put in. Now the feedback here, I already have, I put here simply correct. Paste, correct. And then choice number 2. Choice number 2 is also correct. Its SI unit is PA, Pascal. Copy this and paste it there. This is the other 50% of the marks for this question. So I add in 50%. And I'll give a simple feedback of correct. And choice number 3 is a wrong answer. So I'll just, this is the wrong answer. Copy and then I paste. Okay, the grade here, because it's multiple choice and then multiple answers allowed, means that if they were to fill up all, they could get 100%. So we must ensure that if they choose the wrong answer, they get a deduction of marks. So they have to know exactly which one is right and which one is wrong. So that's what I like about multiple choice, multiple answers allowed, because the students need to be very clear or very sure of their answers and sure of the statements that we made. So sometimes these type of questions can add more difficulty to the multiple choice question instead of the answer 1 multiple choice, where they get a 25% chance of getting it right by just tembak. So for this wrong answer, if you notice, if you scroll down, there's also this negative value here. So because there's 2 right answer, 2 wrong answers. So for this question, I know for this answer is wrong, so I put -50. And then I give a feedback why they get it wrong. Again, this is optional, but recommended. Okay, that's my response, why they get it wrong. And then the 4th choice is also wrong. It's this one. And then the grade here is the other -50%. So I scroll down to the bottom and click on -50%, and then give an explanation why they get it wrong. And then paste. Okay, so now to recap, we have 4 choices. The first choice is correct, 50%. The second choice is also correct, 50%. So that gives us 100. The third choice is wrong, -50%. The 4th choice is also wrong, -50%. Now, if they choose the correct answer, they get 100%. If they choose one of the correct answer, they get 50%. If they choose all, they get 0% because it would counter each other. They will minus each other to become 0. So this is the logic behind this 50%, -50%, and -50%. Okay. Then we save changes.
If we don't want to put negative marking, we can just choose the 0, right? If
yes.
the answer is wrong. Oh.
Correct. But if you select one or more, then they would get it all right if they select all of them.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, even though it's wrong. So that's one reason why I put negative. But from my experience, this sort of questions is even more difficult than any other type of question because they would need to know exactly the right answer.
Yeah, so if we are going to increase the difficulty or level of the questions, maybe we can choose this one more than one choice.
Yes, correct. Because for the 1/4 answer, it's always a 25% chance they get it right.
Thank you, Doctor.
So Dr. Yusri, if you have one answer right and one answer wrong, it means that he is getting 0 marks.
If they select both at the same time, if they select the right answer, you get 1 mark or 100%. If they select both, you get 0.
Oh, so it's a punishment for them also in a way.
Yes. So they cannot just simply I've been doing this, and I feel that this let the student really think, because they need to commit, and then they cannot copy between themselves too, because if they were to copy somebody else, and then that person also get it wrong, they will also get it wrong too. So they would have to commit to their own answers, basically.
Right. Noted.
Dr. Yusri?
Yes.
Yeah, is there any chance that they will be getting negative marks?
No, it's 0. The lowest mark is 0.
Oh, 0. Okay. Because they don't know how many would be the correct one, right?
Correct. We don't tell them.
You don't tell them. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so let's preview the question. So this is how it looks like. Sorry, yes.
There's a question. What about the one answer question? So do we have to include like 50% and minus 50%?
Oh, okay. If it's only one answer, then you just say one of the answers that's 100%, and the other 3 is none, or there's an option for you to choose none, no marks for the other 3.
Oh, so one answer will be 100% grading.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Okay, for the defined pressure, let's see how it looks like. Sorry, okay, again. It's highlighted green, means this is the new question. So we click on this button here to preview the new question to see whether it works as we want it. So we click on the preview, but sorry. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and this is going to be shuffled automatically. So you don't have to, sorry, what happened? I think somebody is sharing their screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because somebody was asking to share. All right. So coming back to this one, we click on the define pressure preview, and this is what you see. Again, these are all automatically shuffled. You don't have to worry being in the same order for every student. Every student will get a different arrangement of the answer. So let's see what happens if we select all as the answer. Select all, and we click submit and finish. This is what they'll see after the quiz ended or the test ended. So they get correct, and then the second one, sorry, because it's wrong, then correct and sorry. So you notice the mark that they get is 0 out of 1 if they select all. So let's start again. So let's see if it's a correct answer. This is the correct answer, and this is the correct answer. And then we submit and finish and see. Yes, so they get 1 out of 1. And then start again for all wrong. Okay, I know the all wrong answer is, I think it's this one and also this one. And then submit and finish. So notice they get a 0 mark, even though it's negative.
The candidates would not know whether what marks they're getting once they have submitted the response.
Will they know the marks?
Yeah.
You can actually set it in the quiz. You can show them directly after the attempt, or you can also show them right after the quiz has ended.
Right, and they are only allowed to give one response, right?
They can actually give multiple response. Later, I will teach you how to create the quiz because that's where you set.
Okay.
This is actually just the preview of the question.
Okay.
All right.
Hello.
Yes.
So you say, is there possibility of keeping the order A, B, C, D?
Yes, there is a possibility. You click. Okay, let me open up that question again. Okay, so here in the question, once you click on edit, there's this option called shuffle the choices. So this is by default on. So if you don't want it to shuffle, then you just untick this, shuffle the choices.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna exit from here. Okay, cancel. Anyway, if somebody notice any questions in the chat, please tell me because I'm focused on the portal, so I can't read the chat. So now, next question. So that is from the easiest, the true or false. Now then we go to the multiple choice. Now a bit more complicated, but not too complicated yet. Let me close this. Now is a numerical type of question. Now this could be of interest for the ones teaching mathematics or the ones teaching engineering or science and technology courses. Now this question simply is about converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. And then for this question, this is the question. And then the type of question that we like to create is a numerical question. And the question text is we want to convert. We want the students to convert and give the answer. What is the 100 Fahrenheit in Celsius? Okay, so let's create that now. I'm going back to here, still in the same category. And then we click on create a new question. And then we are presented with all these choices again. And to create a numerical question, we just choose this numerical link or option here. Now this question allows a numerical response, possibly with units that is graded by comparing against various model answers, but still is a simple one. It's not randomized values for the students yet. These are still more or less static questions. So we choose numerical again, and then click on add. Okay. So this is the numerical question, and the material needed to fill up the question is about the same as the previous two questions. Again, we have to start out with the question name. So I've already created the question. So this is the question. You need to have a title. I recommend you to use a meaningful title so that you know what the question is about when you look at the list. Because if you were to name it question 1, 2, 3, 4, then it's difficult for you to remember what question 1 is, what question 2 is, because you might not want to set the test according to that sequence. So that's why I recommend this. Just give a short, meaningful title for each question, so you can always know which question is which when you look at the list. So this question title is this, and then you paste it here, and then the question text. So the question text simply is just convert 100 degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius, copy, paste it in the question text. Again, default mark is 1. General feedback is, I usually don't put here because this is the feedback the students get once the quiz has ended. But it's a general one, means that it's not based on their responses. It's just for everybody. For example, great job everyone for attempting the quiz and so on. So it's a general feedback after the quiz has ended. And then here is where you put your answers. It could be answer number 1. So because this is a static question, means it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius is just one answer. It doesn't change. I know the answer is this, 37.78 degrees Celsius. So I copy this. I paste it there. And then, wait, let me check something at the bottom. All right. We don't put the unit. We just put the value first. And then error here, if you like to give some allowance for the students to round up. For example, here's 37.78, but then they only get it correct if they just give exactly 37.78. So I suggest maybe 10%, plus minus 10%, so an error of 0.10. So that means it can be from 37.68 until 37.88, if that is the degree of accuracy you like the students to achieve. And then the grade, because this is the correct answer, we choose 100%. And for the feedback, I always like to say good job, and only one answer, so we just need to fill up this part. Then we scroll down. We can actually expect students to add in units to the answer, because if you look at the question here, it's 37.78 without units. But here we can check whether they write in the correct units. So by default, it says units are not used at all. Only the numerical value is graded. But if in this case, you like them to be graded for the units they add in, so you should click on this. And then there's 3 choices here. You choose the unit must be given and will be graded. You can also choose units are optional if a unit is entered. But that's optional. So if you want to grade the units, then you should choose this this option. And then this is the unit penalty, means that if they did not put the unit in, they just put in the value, there will be a penalty of 10% from the full answer, if you like it to be like that way. And the rest, you can keep it as default. So here it says, by default, it's also say the unit go after the number. For example, 1 centimeter or 1 kilometer, not kilometer 1 or centimeter 1. So these are all default. You don't have to change this. Now, this is where you put in the actual unit. Now, we know that the actual unit is degrees Celsius, so we can put in, see, this is the unit, degrees Celsius. We can copy that and then paste it here. Means that the students need to give this unit, or else they get a deduction of 10% from their marks. But you can actually give some allowances to the students to give different types of units that they might not, for example, here, they might not have the symbol degree here. They just have the C. So let's say if they just put C is something that you can accept, you give 1 mark to, or maybe you can put degree C as well as an option for the students to add in. But they don't know this. The students won't know this, the units that you're expecting. But you can give more options here if you expect them to come up with different types of units, but they are still correct. So here I give 3 examples. And then save changes. After you're done with the question, so you click on save changes. So you're done with that question. So any questions from anybody? How's the pace so far?
Good. So far, so
Okay.
good.
Can follow?
Yes, we can follow.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
Yes,
Okay. All right, so let's preview the question. And then if I can ask a favor, if anybody can read the comments or chat, if there's like a urgent question or a short question, you can read them out and then I'll be able to answer them, the questions. Because I hear a lot of the beeping coming from my phone, but I'm focused on this now. So temperature, this is the highlighted question. And then let's preview it. We click in this magnifying with the plus symbol in it to preview the question. And this is what it looks like. Convert 100 degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. So I know the answer is 37.78. Okay, let's say I don't put the units in. Then I click on submit and finish. Yes, it still says good job, but you did not give the correct unit. The correct answer is this. So I get only 90% or 0.9 out of the 1 mark. So let's start again. This is for one option. So start again. What if I give 37.78 C without the degree? Because I give C as an option to as correct option 2. So I click submit and finish. Good job. I get the full mark because this is the C here is part of the list that we accept for the units. So let's say if I give a wrong answer, I'd say 38.9, but I put the correct unit, C, and submit and finish. Okay, it says wrong. The correct answer is this value. Okay, so that's how it works for a numerical question. But again, this is still static. Yeah?
Yeah, I have a question related to this question, numerical question. So for this one, how to avoid the cheating of the student can go to internet direct, you can put the 100 then get the answer. So you should use the equation to calculate this one.
Yes, correct. Yeah. I'm going to that example after this. This is just the numerical. This is still considered as a static question, means that it's going to be the same for all students, so that it's easy for the students to copy among themselves and also to get it from the internet. And for this particular question, I don't recommend to ask because they could actually use those calculators online too. But this is just to keep it simple so that you don't go too much into the content. But just to give an option of how. Yeah, but I agree with you. This is not a very good question because they can just find the calculator online.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but still, this is a static question. Okay. So close preview here. Any other questions? I'll give about 5 seconds.
Hello?
Yes?
What if we need the students to show the working of the mathematical calculations?
How do you expect the students to give you the working? I mean, in the form of a write-up on a piece of paper?
Yes.
Yeah, if that's the case, then you need to set it as an assignment or an essay where they can upload it for you to grade. But it will not be auto-graded. It will not be auto-graded. If you were to do it this way, where you expect only the answers, then it will be auto-graded. But for the ones that you want to look at the working, you would have to ask them to upload the PDF, or and then you have to grade it manually. Now, if sometimes you can be a bit creative on the workings, but you can the constraint here is that you can only accept the answers, so they don't understand the equations that they put in. So you can actually break up. If you know the question is made up of 5 steps, right? So you can break up the question into 5 mini questions, and then where each question is 1 step moving to the next, and then they expect a certain answer for each step before moving to the end. That's one strategy. But in the end, it's they only look at the answers and not the working. And the working can only be done through the PDF and upload and scan. So maybe a mixture of that is something that you can think about. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. All right. Now let's move on. Yes.
Excuse me, Prof. Is it possible to type equation in the question?
It is possible, but it'll get a bit messy because you have to use LaTeX. You know, LaTeX. It's a way in Word we use equation editor, but then in some PDF, in some like those documents, the professionally produced documents, they use LaTeX to create all those equations. So if you want to write those equations here, you have to use that. One option is actually, okay, if you don't want to go into that, and I don't think I have the time to go through to actually teaching how to do that. One idea I can give you right now is you go to that, like say I give you an example right now. I'm gonna give you this one. This is another question. Okay, this equation here, right? So you can put this equation by inserting it as an image. Means that you take a picture of this and then you upload it into the question. That's one way, an easy way actually, but it's a bit tedious if you want to edit it later, but that's the easiest way to write the equation inside. Another way is if it's just subscript and superscript, then you have that option to subscript and superscript. Like for example, P subscript 1, row subscript 1. So one easy option will be for you to take a picture of it, screenshot it, and then crop it and put it inside, and that will be in the form of equation. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's now on the next question. So the next question is, now we're going towards dynamic questions where the questions are different between students. So numerical, now we look at simple calculated. All right. Now, again, this is actually a simple calculation. It's meant just to illustrate what we can do, but not whether it's a right question or not to be put inside, because of the online calculator is another matter. But this is how we create those randomized value questions for the students, for each students where they are different. So this is a bit longer than the previous question, but it's worth it because you can generate many questions automatically, and then each student would have a different value question. This can reduce copying answers. So this question again is just a simple temperature conversion Fahrenheit to Rankine. That means you want to change from degrees F Fahrenheit to degree Rankine. And then to create this type of question, we go back to this, and then we click on create a new question, like before. And then we choose calculated simple. See, calculated simple. And then click on add. Okay. So like before, we need to give the question name. I'm going to copy and paste. Copy. And then paste. And then the question text is just this one, convert. Okay. This is what we want, 100 degrees Fahrenheit to Rankine. And then default mark is 1, and so on. Okay, now, what makes this different than the numerical question is that this one requires you to have the formula for the answer instead of just the value. Okay, so now you need to know a bit about converting from Fahrenheit to Rankine. So luckily, it's quite simple. Just to convert from Fahrenheit to Rankine, you just need to add 460 to Fahrenheit, and you get Rankine. So so that's the formula basically. It's just the value plus 460, you get it in Rankine. So we know the formula in general. So the things that we want to change is this one, this 100. It will range from, let's say, 90 to 120. Okay, to do that, you go back to the question text. So this is what we want to change. There's 100 here. So now you have to follow me carefully here because this can be a bit tricky. So we want to convert that value that changed to make it variable. So we need to use this symbol called the curly braces. Can you see this curly braces? The open curly braces and the closed curly braces. Do you see it?
Yeah.
So this is what we call a wildcard. A wildcard is things can change. So we put the variable that we want to change is that T, or whatever variable you want. It can be temperature, it could be T. For example, I put it like this, temperature. It could be just temp. It could be anything that you like. So, but I recommend just keep it simple, just capital T. So this one, Moodle will recognize it as being a wildcard or things that can change. So after that's done, okay, what's the formula then? The formula is just that the same variable that we the same variable that we want to change, plus 460. Okay. So this is the answer. And the grade is 100%. So this is how we can randomize the questions. I know this is a simple question, but I don't think it's advisable for me to go to more complicated questions for this, because else I have to explain the logic behind those questions. But here, at least more or less you understand that to get the answer is just a matter of this t plus the 460. But you can be very creative. You can make the questions quite complicated too, involving complicated equations by knowing this fact. So in this for this question, there's only one variable that changed, but you can have multiple variables. You could have another x wildcard, another y, and then that makes up to come up with the answer. So for this, I think it's wise. It's good for us to just actually look at the simplest case so that you can scale it up based on your needs later.
So no need to put equal.
No. In this case, no, because it would. This is a simple calculated. If you want to put it, you want to put equal is for the multi-choice question. Yeah. So for this one, you don't have to.
Okay.
Now there's a tolerance part here. Tolerance, again, this is 1%. This is really up to you on how accurate the student need to be. Here is a bit of a trial and error. If you put a tolerance to be too high, then it means it will cover a wide range of values. But by default, they put it at 1%. And it's relative to the answer. And the answer will display 2 decimals and then the feedback. So feedback, usually, if they get it right, I put good job. Now, unit handling, like before, we can put in the unit must be given and will be graded. And then this will be cleared. And then you can see you don't have to change that. And the units we add in, I think just now was degree Fahrenheit, degree Rankine. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to put it here, paste. This is one of the units. So I'll give a few options. Scroll back down. I'll allow them to give just an R without the degree, multiplier 1. Maybe I'll also put degree R, multiplier 1. Means that they still get as a correct answer, even though they did not put they put all these options. Right. So then we can. You should click on this. Find the wildcards present in the correct answer. Here, wildcard just now was T, so they just put here X means that you want to tell Moodle these are the wildcards, so you just click on that. Okay, after you finish clicking on that. Okay, Moodle found that there's one wildcard. So after you finish clicking on the find the wildcard, they found that there's one wildcard because we have one just now, the T. So we click on this button here. And you can see here, the parameter is that wildcard that we set, the T parameter. But what is the range of values that you like it to move in? So in my example, I put from 90 to 120. And then the decimal places is 1. So it could be from 90.0 until 120.0. And then we click on how many wildcards do you want. So if you want every student to have a different value, so let's say you have about 30 students in your class, you can put 30 wildcard values or maybe even 40, just have a bit. And then you generate. So you will generate those 40 values, T values. Okay, so I'm going to scroll back down because every time we click something, it goes back up. So we've already generated the values. And if you want to see the results of that, you can click on this wildcard values. So this is the random value that they've suggested, 104.8. And this is the answer. And it's a correct answer between 559 until 570. So far, so good, everybody?
Yes, okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes, okay, clear.
So this part here, this from minimum to maximum, 559 to 570, it really is based on that tolerance that you set. For example, if you go back up, there's this tolerance here, this 0.01. So that range is is related to this tolerance, this 1%. So any value given by the student that's within that range is correct. Okay, and then we save changes. So it's done. There's no issue. Now we have the new question. Let's preview it. You click on the plus. So this is the question. Convert 103.1 to Rankine. So I put in, I think 460 would be 563.1, and then I put just R. That's the answer. And I click on submit and finish. Yes, it's correct answer. So notice this one changed based on the range that you set. So let's say if I close this preview and then I open up again, just now was 103.1. So if I open this up again, now it changed to 112.6. So every student would have a different value, and every attempt would have a different value too. So actually you can drill students. I know this is a simple question, but you can make it more complicated or more complex based on the question that you give and the formula that you give. But you can drill the students, so you could give them multiple questions of the same questions but different values and ask them to do that as an exercise using this style. Now, if you get it wrong, for example, if I put 0, R, this is what they'll see. Now, so I open another 10 seconds for Q&A. Any questions?
Yusri?
Yeah.
Does that mean that the computer actually generate the value when you put in that curly braces? I mean, when we... okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you.
We call that a wildcard.
Okay, wildcard. Yeah.
So this is yes.
If we have two parameters, for example, T and A, for example, plus equal something.
Okay.
Okay, so how to set the parameter,
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done that question. So let me just work with the same question to add in more parameters.
Okay.
So go back into the question. Okay, let's say we have a few parameters, convert T, and then I say maybe another wildcard, temp, and then another wildcard X, for example. Okay, so 3 different parameters. So remember the curly braces. Okay, then we scroll back down, and then you need to include it in the formula. So now there's 3 wildcards. You should have 3 wildcards inside your answer formula. So let's say the formula is curly braces T minus curly braces temp close plus curly braces X. Let's say this is the question. This is the answer.
Okay.
So you notice that you add in all of the other parameters too in the question. Okay.
Okay.
Then. Okay, and then you click on find the wildcard present, because just before it's just they recognize only one. So you just click on this one. Okay, and then scroll back down. And then we click on this wildcard parameters used to generate the values. So now we see there's 3 parameters that you need to give a range. Okay, so let's say the first parameter T we give from 90 until 120. Okay. The temp we give from, like say, 10 to 20, and X we set from 60 to 70, for example. Okay. Am I going too fast? Everybody can follow?
Yes, we can follow.
Please shout out if there's anything, because I can't really control my pace. So then we generate, I think, like say if you have 50 students or 40 students, we just generate 40, and then we click on generate. Okay, we need to scroll down again, because every time you click something, it refreshes, you go back to the top. So scroll back down. And then we can see the values here, wildcard values. So here they just show 1. You can actually show more by, like, if you want to see a few more, but here they just give 1 to as a sample of the question that they said. And then also for you to confirm whether the range is reasonable. Like here, the range is 618 to 630. And then we can click on Save Changes. So we've edited the question, and we can preview it. Let's see what it looks like once you have multiple parameters. So there, you see convert. Okay, this is the first wildcard, the second wildcard here, and the third wildcard. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So close preview. Yeah. Any other questions?
Bro, if we want to put the number without digit, this mean let's say 90, 91, 92, 93 without digit.
Mm-hmm. Without
so
digits.
Randomly from 90 to 100, but take 91, 92, 93, 94. No need to put digit.
Oh, no need to put the decimal numbers.
Yeah, decimal, yeah.
Okay, so to do that, okay, scroll down. I go back into the question. Okay, I scroll down. I go to my wildcard values. Sorry, wildcard parameters. So here, when we set our range, this is from 1 to 10. By default, they put decimal place 1. So if you don't want any decimal place, you choose 0.
0, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Then
so
you can give...
1, 2, 3, 4 until 10.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now, okay, let's move on. We have, I think, just 20 minutes left before the Perutusan. But we've already done 4 questions. Okay? So I think I can only stop. I can only not stop here, but then I don't want to create another questions because that will take too long. So let's work with this 4 questions. So we've created some questions. We put it in the question bank. Now let's create the quiz creation. Okay. So remember, you have to create the questions first before you can create the quiz. So now we go back to the okay, we're done with this. We have the 4 questions. Now we want to create the quiz. We go back to the main page. Okay, usually for me to go back to the main page, I would just use these links on the top. So I just click on this link to go to the main page of the course. Okay. And then I'm at the main page, and then I turn editing on, turn editing on first so that I can create the quiz. So main page, go to the gear button, click on turn editing on. So once you turn editing on, there's a few things that you can add. So I think just to make it more meaningful, I don't put topic 1, I put in the actual topics, unit and dimensions. Okay, how do I do that? How do I do that? I just click on this. Okay, click on edit topic name, and then I directly type units and dimensions. Oh, sorry, I didn't press enter, sorry. Units and dimensions, press enter. That's the first topic. So I add another topic. I think I add 2 more topics. Temperature and pressure, press enter. And the last one, mass and energy, for example. Okay, so we want to create a quiz for the second topic, temperature and pressure. These are the different panels for each topic. So we click on add an activity, and then we choose quiz. So I know we use the term quiz and test interchangeably, means that it's about the same thing. So it just depends on the level of involvement or difficulty of it. But there's only one option for this sort of a test inside Moodle. It's quiz, but you can make it more difficult to be like a test if you think that test is more involved. So we click on quiz. So once you click on that quiz there, you're presented with this page. So this is actually not to create a question. This is to create the place where you can put the questions. So this is I put in, like, say, temperature and pressure quiz. And then you put in the description, depending on, this is optional. You can put a description if you want. And then let me go through. There's a lot of options here, and sometimes people can be overwhelmed with what you can change. So I'm just going to point out a few that I think is important. So timing, I think you understand the concept of timing for quizzes. You can actually set when to open the quiz and when to close the quiz. I think most teachers would be interested to know when we want to set when the quiz will open and when to close it. So let's say we set it at tomorrow, 11 April 2020 at about 10 a.m. Go up. Okay. Open the quiz tomorrow, 10 a.m. and then close the quiz maybe 2 days after, 12 April 2010 at about 10 a.m. as well. So important that you click on enable here, because by default it's unticked, so this is grayed out. Now you can also set the time limit. Now the open and close quiz doesn't mean that it means the student will be able to see the quiz during this period between 11 and 12. But once for the time limit is if they go into the quiz, they are given only how many minutes. They are only given a certain number of time to complete it. So maybe you can give them about 30 minutes for the quiz. A timer would start once the quiz begins. So this is how you, although they can actually enter the quiz at any point during 11 to 12, but then they only have 30 minutes every time they enter. And then sometimes some students will go in and then they're not sure about the answers. They leave it some, but they did not submit. They answered some, but they did not submit. So we set it as open attempts are submitted automatically, means any answer they put will be submitted automatically without them confirming the submission. Okay, so far so good.
Dr. Yusri, can you explain again what you just said about this open attempts?
Okay, open attempts is about, you see, from my experience, the students will come into the quiz and then they would attempt the quiz, but then they don't want to commit, they don't want to submit the answers yet. Let's say we leave it open for a week. In this case, it's 30 minutes only. But let's say you leave the quiz for a week and they come in and then they look at the questions, they answer some, they leave some empty, but they haven't submitted yet because the students need to submit at the end of the quiz, the answers. So if we put it as open attempts are submitted automatically, means that whatever answer they put in, even though they haven't submitted yet, will be considered as their answer. Understand?
Which means that they best not try to attempt, is it?
They should attempt, because if they don't attempt, they won't get any marks at all for any answers that they put in.
But can they repeat attempt later to make the answer correct, or when they are more confident to answer?
Yes, they can, because if they haven't submitted. But then let's say we open the quiz for a week and we leave it. We don't have a time limit from 11, so from day 1 till day 7. So they go into the quiz and then they look at the 5 questions. They answer question 1 and 2, but they didn't answer question 3 and 4 and 5. And then they did not go to the last page to submit, but they already chose some values for question 1 and 2. And then they forgot about the quiz. They forgot to submit. So when the date of the quiz comes, then the student, the Moodle would take whatever answer that the students put in as their answer, as their final answer. But within that 1 week, the students can still change their answers because they haven't submitted the answers yet.
Okay,
but
understood.
how about we already set the 30 minutes? So let's say they already start the quiz, right? So they just given 30 minutes. Doesn't matter if we start the quiz will be open from 11 to 12 April, right?
Yeah.
So if they start, then they need to finish within 30 minutes. Am I right?
Yes. If they don't finish, they haven't submitted, whatever answers they put will be submitted automatically.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
All right.
Any other option, Dr. Yusri?
What do you mean by options?
Any other options on that one? Yeah. Maybe you can explain other options. Thank you.
Okay, there is a grace period when open attempts can be submitted. Means that even though they close, we give them a grace period for them to still submit the answers, but they cannot answer more questions. And attempts must be submitted before time expires. For this one, means that if we set it like this, means that they must commit, they must submit at the end of the quiz. Right now, maybe they must click on the submit button at the end of the quiz to get their answers counted if we select this one. So these are all not default settings. So the default one is this one, means that they come in, they try some, they did not finish, they did not submit, but once the time limit comes, whatever answers they put will be submitted as their answer. While the last one, in the middle, somewhere in between, but the last one means if they did not submit at the end of the quiz, means they did put some answers, but they did not click the submit button at the end, means that whatever answer they put will not be counted. They still get 0. So that's the 3 main options. So I don't change this usually. I would just leave it like that. This is the default.
Dr. Yusri.
Yes.
Doctor, okay, for the first attempt, for example, and then they attempt some of the questions and then they don't submit, and then they maybe they will have some chance to go and check the answer, right? And then they attempt again.
Yes, they can.
So
you can actually change this. If you want them to have a limited amount of time, you give them 30 minutes. Or you give them 15 minutes, then they only have the time to answer the question at that time. So whatever answer they put in, they will get that answer for that quiz at that time. After the 30-minute ends, there's no more submission of answers anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So grade category, right now we don't have a category for this yet. We just leave it as that. Grade to pass, leave it. Okay, here, attempts allowed. This is what you mean by how many times can they actually attempt the quiz. So if you want to do only once, you just put 1. Attempts allowed, only 1 time. Or else it could be like 2 or 3 times or unlimited times. It means they can do it again and again.
Sorry, doctor, why we have omitted the grade part?
Which one?
The grade.
The grade to pass? It's you can put if you want.
I mean, if we here we have to decide, for example, if the quiz out of 5 marks, so here we can decide at this icon.
Yes. Like say for example, 40% will constitute a grade. I mean pass grade, or maybe 25.
Oh.
It's up to you. Okay, but default is 0. Now the implication of this is that if you leave it as 25. Means that and then they did not pass, they get it lower than 25, and they did not pass means that this activity does not contribute to the grade. Means that this activity will not be taken as their assignment because they did not pass.
Oh no, I mean if we want the total marks of the quiz is 5 marks. So here we decide, or later from the number of questions.
Later from the number of questions, not here.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
So we leave it as empty here. Don't put anything here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so layout. I think this one is self-explanatory. You know, layout. You want it every question, every page 1 question, or every page 2 question. It's up to you. We'll just put it 1 question per page. Okay, question behavior. Shuffle within questions. You can. The answers. You can also choose not to shuffle the questions. And here, deferred feedback means that they will be given feedback after the quiz. Now, this is a bit complicated, so let me just explain here. This is my recommendation. I think most of you will be doing this anyway. So during the attempt, they don't get to see whether they get it right or wrong. But immediately after the attempt, means after they finish giving their answers, they just see the attempt. Do not take any of the rest. Later, while the quiz is still open, they finished it because we remember just now we said for 2 days and but only 30 minutes. They finished it, but then it's still open. We should only let them see the attempt. But after the quiz is closed, then you can let them see the attempt, whether they get it right or wrong, the marks they get, if you have any specific feedback, the right answer, and the overall feedback. So that's my recommendation. So again, during the attempt, they get to see the attempt, yes. Immediately after the attempt, but the quiz has not closed yet, they get to see the attempt. They don't know whether they get it right or wrong. Later, when they finished, but then the quiz is still open, they only get to see the attempt. Only when the quiz closed on the 12th of February at 10 a.m., only they get to see they get it right, wrong, or what the answer is. So this is my recommendation for this review option. All right.
Dr. Yusri?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind explaining the grade category?
Grade category is something that we haven't, this one, right? We haven't said it yet. So that's why it's uncategorized. I'll explain this.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so the rest here, we don't have to do, except for the last part here, activity complete. Yes?
Sorry, Dr. Yusri, just one more question.
Okay.
Just now about shuffling the question. Say, for example, I want to shuffle the question, but maybe question 1 and question 2, they are related. So I want them to be shuffled together.
Within the same page, you mean?
Can I do that?
Yeah, you
no,
can.
say I have a question, and then question 1 got the answer. And then for the question 2, somehow it's related to the question 1.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why I cannot let the system shuffle it randomly. So these two has to be together every time you shuffle it. Can we do that?
Yes, actually you can, but it's a bit more, slightly more complicated because you need to make sure they have the shared data set, because we randomize the values and you'll be using the value from one question in the next question. So you need to make sure that the two questions are sharing the same data set. That's one way for you to link the two questions. You can do it, but I don't think we have the time for it now. Maybe you can connect to me directly. I can tell you how to do it.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yusri.
Okay, no problem.
Dr. Yusri?
Yes.
Got question, yeah? Let's say our data bank got 50 questions. For quiz, I want to give only 20 questions for each student. I want to give randomly from the 50 questions. How to set that one?
I'm going to show how to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, coming back to this one, we have about less than 10 minutes. So we have activity completion. Okay, students can manually mark the activity. Okay, this one, I recommend you to put show activity as complete when the conditions are met. Students must view the activity to complete it. And also student must receive a grade to complete this activity. It means that if they attempt it, then they complete it. If they haven't attempted, if they haven't received a grade, they haven't not completed it. So this is, again, it's not that important, but it's just something I recommend you to do to make sure that they are on track. They've done the quiz. And then save and return to course. Now, what we've done so far is just to create the quiz. We haven't added the question yet. Okay, so this is what we see, the temperature and pressure quiz. And this is empty. There's no questions there. We click on edit again. And then, you click on this. Don't click on edit. Click on this, the link, temperature and pressure quiz. Click on that. And then you'll see this screen, and they will say, okay, the quiz is not available until Saturday. It stops at 12, time is 30 minutes. So they give the instructions there. And then they says no questions have been added yet. So to add questions, we click on edit quiz. Right? So this is where we add the questions. So here you see add. So add a new question or from a question bank. So remember, we've already created 4 questions in the question bank. So we click on from a question bank. And this one will pop up, this window here. And then because this is a temperature and pressure topic, so you choose the category. That's why I recommend you to create the temperature and pressure, because if you create so many questions in one category, you don't know which questions for which topic. So we create temperature and pressure. And then we have that 4 questions. Right now, it's still manageable because there's only 4 questions. But if you have like 50, then very difficult to know which one is which. So here you can, let's say I just choose this for now, all. Select options. All right, so select all. And then I select the add selected questions to the quiz. All right. So this is the shuffled. Now, if you want to get it from a bank, you click it. This is actually from the bank, but then let's say you want it to be randomly from a large pool of questions. So you click on add and you click on a random question. So a random question, you say that this one will come up, category, temperature and pressure. And then we say number of random questions. We know we have 4, so let's say we only want 2 questions out of that 4 questions. And then you add random question. So what happens is that it add another 2 questions, and then those questions come from that bank, from that category, 2 questions. So that answers that question just now, where if you have a bank and you want it randomly, but 20 questions, you just do this. And the thing is, every attempt that they have, every attempt that the students try, like say you open it and they can try multiple times, every time they go into the quiz, they get a random question too. So that's why it's actually very good for you to create a question bank, and then you have some questions to play around with. And then once you play, and then you create this random quiz questions, then every student, every time they attempt, they will not have the same questions for them to copy or to discuss or whatever. Okay, does that answer your question just now about random questions?
Yes, doctor. Thank you.
Okay, so here actually we added 6, but this 2 is random from the same pool. Okay, and then we don't even see what question they are because this will be different. Now, for you to change the weightage of a question, for example, here is all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So let's say this question is more difficult, this number 3 question, and you want to increase the weightage. You click on this icon, the pencil icon, and then this one would be editable, and we change it, like say 2 marks. So that effectively increased the weightage for this question. So not all of them has the same weightage. And then you can also shuffle them. Now, if you don't click on shuffle here, then it will follow the sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you click on shuffle here, then all these questions will be shuffled in the, for the quiz.
And then, doctor, the weightage is changed only on the quiz. It is not changed on the question bank.
Yes, only the quiz.
Yes.
Okay, so now it's done. We click on save. And then, okay, the maximum grade here, we put 10. I think we just leave it at default. You can always change the weightage here later. Don't change it now. And let's preview the quiz. So to preview the quiz, you go back to edit quiz. Sorry, not edit. Go back to the main page. Sorry, go back to the main page, temperature and pressure quiz. And then this will come up, and you can preview the quiz by clicking on preview quiz now. Start attempt. Now, as a lecturer or as the instructor for the course, you get to test run the quiz. So, but the students don't get to see this. So start attempt.
Excuse me, Dr. Yusri.
Yes.
The time limit for 30 minutes, is it every time that you that the student gain access to the quiz? And
Yes.
But they actually don't have time to complete the entire, let's say if the total number of questions is 50, actually we will give a longer period of time. Would we? Is that how it works, or
only 30 minutes?
For each question, or for all?
For the quiz, for all the quiz, for all the questions in the quiz.
And then let's say if like you mentioned, if they did not finish the quiz, they will be automatically like logged out, right?
They won't log out. It's just that the quiz would end, and
Okay,
then whatever.
The quiz would end. So they cannot re-access the quiz, can they?
If you put the attempts to only one time, they cannot reaccess the quiz. If you put it unlimited, then they can reaccess as long as the quiz is open from 11 to 12 April.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So temperature, okay, I'm going to go back. We don't have much time. So let's preview the quiz. Start. All right, so this is what the students see. So one question per page. So they put in their answers. I'm just going to put anything there. Next page. Put in another answer. Next page. I choose one. Next page. And then here true. This is what I mean by submit attempt. So you see, they could just go into the quiz. They don't commit. They don't click on finish attempt. So if they don't click on finish attempt, means whatever answers they give are still open. So once the quiz ends, the deadline ends, then or the time limit has come, then whatever answers they put will be automatically submitted. That's what it means by open answers or answers they haven't submitted yet. So this button means that they commit to answering the question, to giving the answers, and then you click on finish attempt. And then submit all and finish. So this is what they see. Okay, you know that the quiz is 30 minutes, but it's open from 11 to 12 April. That means the quiz is still open, right? They could still see the attempt, but they don't know how much marks they get. They just know, okay, these are their answers, but they don't know the answers or the marks they get until the quiz ended on the 12th. Everybody can still follow? Yes?
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right. So They get to know their answers, they get to know their marks only after 12 April, 10 a.m. when the quiz closes. Not when the time limit ends, when the quiz closes. That's why there's two things, quiz close and a time limit for the quiz. So finish review. So it's already 4 p.m. So if you need to, I think I can continue, right? If you want to, do you want me to continue or do you want to, because it's already 4 and then some of you might want to listen to the Perutusan? Hello? I'll just continue. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think just continue. Those who wants to go to listen, they can go.
Okay. All right.
Continue.
So I expect another 15 minutes or so. Okay. Now we're done. We created the quiz. So it's up and running. So the students, if you go back to the main page of the course, okay, you notice that in the calendar it will automatically mark the when the quiz open and when the quiz close. So students nowadays, they are more comfortable using eLearn. Most of them, I'm not sure about most of them, but at least most of my students are more comfortable using eLearn, so they pay attention to the calendar here. So every time we create a quiz, they are aware of the deadlines and when it opens and when it closes, or they will tell their friends because it's in the calendar. Okay, now setting the gradebook, another important, the natural step, the next natural step. Now, most courses, if it's empty, you will not have a gradebook. You haven't set it up. Yes? Yeah, do you have a question? Sorry? Hello? Okay, never mind. If you have, you can type it in, and later if I see it, I can answer. So we go to okay, you coming back. So the page here, you click on this 3 horizontal lines. Click on that. Then you go down to grades. Click on that. And this is the gradebook. So this is the list of students. This is the previous semester, not the current semester. And we see the number of participants and so on. So this list should be the same as the class list that you get, that you printed from the main office of your respective schools. So because once they register, they come into the system, then they would automatically will be in here and also will be in that list, in the one that you get from the school, or the CLA list. So this grader report, what you need to do first is you go up and then you see there's two options, two list of links. One is the top one, the second one is here. So you click on set up. Okay. Now, there was a question I asked, how about the categories, the grade categories? So when we created the quiz, there was no category. That's why it's put as uncategorized. So this is where we put in the categories. So I'll put add category first. Now, if you recall in the beginning, in the PowerPoint slides, I put in here, this is the hypothetical course, 40% assignment, 60% quiz. Okay, so this is where we need to put in the categories. One is for assignment and the other is for the quiz or test. So I put here the first one, the first category is assignment. Put in the name assignment and then scroll down, no need to change anything. Scroll down, save changes. So we create one category, we see there, assignment. And then we create another category because there's another type of assessment called the quiz. So we add a category. Okay, we name it as, I think we use tests instead of quiz. It's actually the same thing. So save change. Just click continue here. Okay, everybody can follow? I'm sometimes if nobody say anything, I'll tend to go faster and faster.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes, can follow.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. So we have this assignment and then test category. So this is where we set the weightage. So if we do this correctly, we can actually auto-calculate our the grades of the students without, we don't have to like calculate it manually, but then we need to set it properly in the gradebook. So that's why I stress this. So for assignment, we know that it's, I think based on that, it's 40%, right? So we put the weightage, we click on this, tick that, and we put here 40%. Of course, this depends on your course. For this course, it's 40%. For tests, it's 60%. Okay? So that means whatever tests or assignments that you create, no matter like you have 10 or 10 tests, 3 assignments, the total of those assignments and tests would be accumulate up to 40%, or the 10 tests will accumulate up to 60% only, and because it's weighted based on this weightage that we set here. Okay, now we save change because we just changed that. We save the changes here. Click on continue. We scroll down. Okay, we see that those changes already saved. Now, obviously, temperature and pressure is under the category test. So to move this into this category test, we click on this arrow button here, scroll down, and we put it under test. You see this? These are all the other places that we can put in. So we put it under test to categorize it as a test. Click there. Click continue. And then there, this is categorized under tests. Now, if you have many other tests, okay, in this case, there's only one test. So this is 100% of that 60%. So if you have more tests here, so you can, let's say temperature test is an easy test and you want to have lower weightage, then you should maybe put it at 20% maybe. But then there's another test, maybe 80%, but the total has to be 100%. So in here, if you put 20, it's 20% from 60. But I cannot put 20 now because there's only one test, because it will auto-calculate back to 100% because there's only one test. Okay, so we save changes. Okay, continue. Okay, so now we've already set this up. And then if you categorize your test and your assignment well, then they will auto-calculate. Now, a next important thing to change is this letters here, okay? This view, setup, scales, outcomes, letters. So click on letters. Because the students, if you set it properly, the students will know will have a rough idea of their grade as they progress. So the default set by Moodle is not the one used by USM. Because for Moodle, it says from 100 to 90%. Is letter A, get the letter A. But for USM, it's 100 to 80. At least my school is from 100 to 80. I'm not sure about other schools. So you can't use the default here. Now, why it's important for you to change this is because if you create the quiz and tests and the students are getting grades for them, if you don't change this, then it's not the same grade that's set by your school or that's agreed in your school. So here, obviously, it's not correct. 100 to 90 is A. So I have to change this to 80. So to do that, I click on Edit Grade Letters. So it's quite simple. We just need to know the range for each grade. So for A is anything more than 80. So A minus, anything more than 70. I don't really remember mine, but I'm just gonna show you this. So maybe this is 50. This is 40 and so on. Okay, I'm going to put here 35, 30. This is just an example. 25, 20, 15, 10, and 0. All right. So we set this correctly. And then we click on Save Changes. Now, this is important because once you go back to, okay, we set it already like this. Remember, if you want to change the grade, you just click on Edit Grade Letters. So if you go back to the view, this link here, you get to see the students and then how they perform for each test. So the students haven't done the test yet, so of course they don't get any grade for it. But if you set it properly, if you set the grade letters properly, then they get to see whether they get an A, they get a B. You can actually show the actual values too for each test. But from my experience, my recommendation is just best if you just put the letters instead of the actual value of the test or the assignment. So if they get like more than 80, they don't really know they get 85.4 or 89.9. They just know they get an A. This is actually to reduce negotiation between you and the students, because sometimes if they get like 78, this is just from my experience. This is just based on my experience. If they get 78.8, then they would negotiate. Oh, can I be upgraded by 1.2 marks to get an A, for example? So if you don't want that to have that kind of conversation, then I suggest you to put the grade itself, so they don't know how near they are to the borders or not. But this is just from my experience. So to do that, you should go to to let the students see what, instead of the values, but just see the letters. To do that, you just go to setup. Then you go to course grade settings. Okay, let me repeat that. Setup, and then course grade settings. Okay, you scroll down. The rest here, you don't have to worry about it. You just look at this grade display type. For this, it's actually letter and then the percentage. So they would see they get an A, B, B minus, and then also the value, the percentage for that particular assessment. So if you just want them to see the letter, you just click on that, and then you just show the letter. That means they get to see whether it's B or A or C instead of the percentage. But if you're comfortable giving the real value of the assessment, then you can give letter, percentage, or maybe even percentage and then letter, like that. Okay. And then save change. The rest you don't have to change, just change that one. So we can't test run this because the students, this is a previous semester, so they're not going to do the test. But that's the most important, I think the most critical things, parts of the gradebook that you need to edit, so that it will auto-calculate the grades for you instead of you have to manually calculate later. Because now I think a lot of people are using coursework instead of exams, and then they have a lot of assessments. They're difficult to manage all that. So it will take a bit of time for you to set up now in e-learning, but then it will save you time later when you are consolidating all of the marks and then calculating the percentage and so on. And I also recommend, like say if you have, this is just a recommendation, it's best if you just work with one course so that every assessment will be in the same course instead of splitting into many, many different courses, because in the end you have some problems if combining all those different split courses for the same course. So if you set it all up here and then every lecturer does their part accordingly, then things would be auto-calculated at the end. Okay, I think that's the part that I want to cover. Anything else? Yes. So, N. Now the question and answer part. So now's the time for me to look at the chat. There's so many messages. All right.
Doctor, sorry. Is there any difference between the quiz and test here? Can we differentiate between them here? And just follow the quiz.
In Moodle, it's only quiz. There's no test.
Just follow it.
Yeah, in Moodle, it's just quiz.
Thanks, Doctor.
All right. Okay, any other questions? CDAE, are you recording this session? You are, right?
Yes, doctor. We are recording this.
Yeah. So even though some parts I might go fast, so if you have the recording, we can always go back to those recordings for those steps. And for more complicated questions, like for example, there was a question where you want to combine two different questions that use the same data set, and you want to put it in sequence. You can actually I don't think we have the time. I don't have the time actually to do it here. So that is a case by case. So you can contact me, and then we can work through it together.
Okay, thank you.
So, any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much for your sharing.
Yeah, thank you for participating.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Yusri. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yusri.
Have
Good
a
luck,
great
everybody.
one. Have a great one,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Doctor. Bye, Doctor. Happy PKP, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the information and training. All the best.
Good luck.
Yeah, all the best.
Oh, do we get
Thank you. Thank you. See you again.
Thank you, Dr. Dre. Thank you.
Do we get to fill up the feedback forms for the CBT?